You're listening to Estrogen Dropouts.
Hey guys, welcome back to Estrogen Dropouts. I'm one of your hosts, Erin.
And I'm Elizabeth. And today we have one of my most favorite people on the planet that we are interviewing. And I'm so excited. She is my personal psychic therapist for close to 20 years. I don't know if she will like the term. We'll have to ask her about me saying she's a psychic. She is an intuitive. She is an author and instructor of the book Claim Your Life, Transform Your Unwanted Subconscious Beliefs into an Exhilarating Source of Power. She's a shamanic, Reiki, theta, and energy healing practitioner. She's certified in medical and dental hypnotherapist. She is a catalyst coach, and she has been published and featured in many magazines and different various publications. And today we're going to be discussing her certification as an Akashic Record reader, teacher, consultant, and basically how she is a therapist and an empowerment coach to so many people.
Welcome, Boni. I'm really excited to get to talk to you because I've heard so much about you from Elizabeth. But before we dive into your process, just for our listeners who are not familiar with Akashic Records, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a brief little overview, and then also telling us about how you got into this line of work and using the record.
Sure. Well, the Akashic Records really are every thought, word, deed that you have experienced throughout your soul's lifetime. Okay? So that's different than this lifetime, but it's through your whole souls. And that's really all of it. So all that information has been recorded. And that's really what I do is I consult your records whenever you ask a question. Okay. How I got into it is, my life wasn't going great. It was like 25 years old, and I had already done everything that I thought I wanted to do, as far as working in the corporate world and, everything. So what I did is I started looking at what would make my life better, what would make me happier. So I started doing what everybody does and go to the different workshops and classes and everything. And then everything I took, I tried to teach, because then you learn kind of the ins and outs about it. And whenever I got to the point, I'd say I was about 40, I got to the point that I saw that not everything worked for everybody. And the last thing I was doing was regression hypnosis, using, regressing people back to either their childhood or past lives or wherever it is that was the root cause of their problem. And I still would have like one person out of 100 that couldn't do it. They just couldn't focus long enough. They just couldn't get to that point. So I thought, well, there has to be something else. So then I heard about the Akashic Records, and I had done some before, but never thinking that I was going to do it, teach it, consult it for people. And so I started started learning about it. And it's the first time I took a class, I knew I was going to be teaching it. I knew that's where I was meant to be. And that everything else I had taken up till then was really so that I understood so much of how our emotional systems work and how everything is laid out so that I would be able to explain it better to people.
So it's kind of, I think I've heard you say it's basically the Akashic Records are your book of life.
Well, in the Bible, yes. So a lot of people that are religious know that in the Bible, it says the book of life, but they don't know what that is. But what that is they're talking about the Akashic Records. Every religion says it a different way, but it's the same thing. It is the recording of your soul.
Okay, so do you consider yourself psychic?
I don't consider myself psychic. What I have done throughout the years is remove as many beliefs that don't work for me, and fears and old programs that I was taught as a child. And because of that, it allows me to be very neutral and can receive more information. So a lot of people think I'm psychic, but it's not really about being psychic. It's about just not having filters.
So what is the process like when you tune in to someone's records?
Okay. So there's two keys that I use. One is an ancient Mayan prayer, and I use that first. And the second key is their name, because it's the vibration of the prayer and their name that allows me to get to where where you keep your records, which is in the left ventricle of your heart. So a lot of times whenever I open the records, people will say, "Oh, I just felt, I felt something, and I'll say, that's because they're just now open. But the more I work with them, they won't even notice it after a while. It's usually just the first couple of times because it's just such a new experience.
Interesting. The left ventricle is also the most important in your heart. So it's kind of fitting, I think, that it's that one. So when people come to you, is there something that they are usually coming to you for? Like, is it clarity or healing or direction? What do you think is the most common reason when a person is like, I'd like for you to, read my Akashic record?
Right. We usually start with what's not perfect yet. So they look at their life, what's not perfect yet. So they're having problems with their spouse, they're having problems. It's some kind of relationship with money, relationship with siblings, relationship with something. And so that's usually where we start, unless they really have had just like what I call a trigger, something just happened to them, then they don't know why, or they're in anxiety, they're in some big turmoil, and they really just don't understand why.
Okay, so they're kind of seeking clarity from you first, usually.
Well, clarity and
Understanding,
sometimes,
kind of.
and like you said, direction, because their life has changed. Maybe they've lost a spouse, maybe they or a close friend, or some kind of understanding about life in general, why this would happen to them, or why they
Or they get stuck, probably. Like I've come to you many times when I'm stuck.
yeah, they reach what I call their belief wall, and they can't get past it, and so they don't know
They
what belief
stall out. They
block.
stall.
Yeah, what block is there that they can't get past? Why is that wall there? And again, it's really old beliefs and old fears, and either childhood or I know some people don't believe in past lives, but I've had so many experiences with people. I always say you don't have to believe it. It's okay, because as long as whatever we do works, that's all we care about.
And so here's the thing: if we have a lot of people that are so mainstream listening to this, and this is probably the first time they've ever heard of Akashic Records, and they're probably a little freaked out by the whole like intuitive, psychic, like all of that type stuff. But I have so many stories of how Bonnie has helped me so much. And I tell everyone about her. If anyone comes to me with any type of struggle that they are going through, like Erin has heard about her for years, I'm like, you've got to go see Bonnie. Like, even if you don't believe in psychic stuff, you can see her for just mental health. Like, she is the best life coach. I'm telling you, I've seen regular therapists for years with different like blocks and like mental health stuff. Nobody helps me like Bonnie does. She has a gift for saying things and getting you to see things so clearly. So I'm going to give you some things that she has like helped me with, some personal testimony stories. So I was working with this company for a few years, and I was making a lot of money, and I was really unhappy, and my health was really struggling. And I was having appointments with Bonnie every several months. And it was that same conversation over and over again. Like, should I leave? Should I leave? And she would helped me. I feel like when you go to a traditional therapist, they ask you questions to try to kind of get you to figure out your own stuff, but they never just say it. And you're like, sometimes you're like, just freaking tell me, like, not tell me what to do, but like, tell me where my hang up is. Tell me what I'm doing. Anyway, Bonnie so clearly is like, look, these are your options. If you stay where you are, you're going to continue feeling sick with all of these different things. You're losing yourself here. Or you can leave and it's going to be okay. And the psychic piece of that, now she's not going to give you psychic or intuitive hits unless you ask. If you are there just for a life coach session, let me tell you, that is enough. She's amazing. But if you are there because you need some spiritual guidance, like you need some wisdom from the other side, she told me this was a year before I was a makeup artist in my 20s. I left makeup. She told me a year before. I was like, what else am I going to do? I'm like, I've got this, high paying job. She said, I just keep hearing, make sure you really like the makeup before you go. And I'm like, Boni, I'm not getting back into makeup. I'm not. And so I just ignored her. And then right before we hung up with the call, I said, do you have any last words for me? And she goes, I just keep hearing you better make sure you really like the brand you choose, the makeup. And I'm like, why? I got hung up. I was so irritated with her. Do you know how many times this has happened that I hung up and I'm irritated with something she says to me that comes true? And I'm like, I'm like, why does she keep bringing up makeup? I'm not going back to makeup. I even told her on that call, I'm like, Boni, I'm not going back to makeup. And then a year later, I signed with Saint, which is makeup. And that's how I met Erin. And that's where I am today and became an influencer after all of that. And it was like meant to be. And she even told me at one time, she's like, I see you on screens doing makeup. She's like, I don't know. And she's like, all I see is like you with Maybelline or something. She's like, I don't know. I see you with brands working. And that's exactly what I do. And at that time, it was nowhere in my radar. And then another instance, my best friend went to her because she wanted to get a divorce. She was very unhappy. She was married to an alcoholic and he was cheating on her and he was a raging alcoholic. And Boni said, and so she was like navigating that with looking for guidance. What should she do? And she said, I want to leave, but I don't know how to divvy up the money. I don't know what to do. And Boni said, just give it 2 years and you're going to get everything. And she was like, how can I get everything? And Boni didn't tell her, but she hung up from that call and she called me and she goes, I think he's going to die. And I said, what? And she goes, I didn't ask her because I was like, I don't want to know at that point. And she said, but Boni said within 2 years, I would get everything if I stayed. Well, she didn't stay and he did die within 2 years.
And she didn't get anything.
She didn't get anything because she left. But Boni told her not to. And Boni said, he's going to leave you everything in 2 years. And then Boni did tell her he was going to have something with his liver. He died of cirrhosis of the liver. And Boni did tell her there was something that was going to come up with his liver. And he was a raging alcoholic at that point. But my best friend had no idea that he had any health conditions. So she left him. And within 6 months, he was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver. 6 months later, he was dead. It was crazy. It was so fast. And then
can I just say one thing here?
Yeah.
I did not have that information like I had the information. It came from the records. So, I always don't take credit for what they say, even though it comes out of my mouth. Okay? So go ahead.
Yeah. So that's why you're thinking like, okay, so yeah, I mean, you're like giving the glory to God or whatever, like how people do that. Like, it's not me. It came from somewhere else.
Exactly.
You're just the conduit through which it comes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a couple other things I'm going to share that aren't as deep, but have like helped me. Or not even helped me. It's something that came true. My son really wanted this college. And Boni said, 100% he's going to get an interview there. And she's like, if I don't know what's going to happen after that, that's up to how he does in the interview. And then she said, now Boni doesn't know my son, but she's like, I feel like he can come across as arrogant. And if he comes across in that interview like a know-it-all and arrogant, he's not going to get it. He didn't get it. He didn't get that school, but he did get the interview like she said he was. And so I can just assume he is not arrogant, but I do think he comes across that way a lot of times because he's very self-assured. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. And then finally, just for therapy stuff that I was dealing with, one of my daughters was dating somebody. And you guys have heard me talk about this story on the podcast. And I even referenced my therapist. It's Boni. So I said, my daughter was in an unhealthy relationship and I was really concerned about her. And Boni helped me through that by saying, this is how you're going to talk to her. This is the conversation you're going to have. You're going to ask her, what is she receiving from this information or from this relationship? How is this relationship benefiting her? And then she said, you're going to see then where the weakness is in her, what she needs from it, and you're going to help build her confidence in that area. And so I did. I asked Nicole, I said, what is going on? Like, what are you feeling with him? What do you like about him? And she said, I like that he makes me feel safe. And at that point, she was riddled with anxiety and social anxiety and stuff. And so I realized, okay, he's making her feel safe. And Boni taught me how to hold on to um, that safe feeling and help her develop her own strength so that she could feel safe on her own in public and because she was having a lot of anxiety. And eventually she did. And Boni said she's going to leave him when she gets her own strength. And she did. Anyway, so I just wanted to share a few different stories because I wanted you to see how this can, so many different avenues that this can work in your life.
Well, and I was going to say, I am a huge skeptic and always have been. So Elizabeth knows this story. This past May, I have a conscious business and I host retreats for women with my business partner here in Atlanta. We host day retreats. I mean, we've done some weekend ones, and we use a lot of the yoga philosophy, and we use the chakras. And I've always even still been, just even as I got into yoga 15 years ago, just like always take everything. There's a science part to my brain where I'm like, I need to be able to touch it, feel it, everything. But so in May, we went to a yoga and healing center up in Massachusetts called Kapala. And I let it was Mary's, her mother had passed away. So it was going to be the first Mother's Day that she wasn't going to, that her mom was going to be gone. So she picked a retreat that for Mother's Day, and it was called Channeling the Psychic Within, which the guy that taught it, he doesn't really like the word psychic either. He uses the term like medium or intuitive. But I was like, okay, fine, I'll go, because I'm always game for anything. I mean, I won't say like I'm blocked to things, but I just lean a little bit more skeptical, but I'm open to learning as much as I can. Anyways, to make a long story short and to get to my question, I went and I found out I was I call it intuitive, and I've always known I'm intuitive, but like things that other people in the class weren't getting, he had us do these exercises. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't be a skeptic anymore. So that's, I guess, what I want to get to is like, because even as I was doing it, I was kind of like, this is what I see. I was just trying to channel reading for some people. And
she was getting it right.
And and they were like, oh my gosh. And I was like, really? But how are you able to distinguish between like, because I kept thinking like, am I like trying, like, I didn't know these people. These were people coming from all over, the United States. But how do you, and that's what I still can't get my head around, how I knew this stuff. So how do you tell if the information is actually genuine and not just like your imagination, not that you're just like making it up?
Okay, first of all, you're not in your head when you say this stuff. It just comes through you. You don't think about it. You don't filter it. You don't try to make it different than how it comes in. You just say what you get, and it either hits them or it doesn't. If it hits them and they go, oh my God, that's exactly right. You see, you didn't make it up. It came from somewhere else. So I would say it's the energy behind it, and the fact that you didn't think about it. You weren't in your head.
And that's what our instructor that weekend, he said, don't think about it. Because I get in my head and I'm like, you play out all these scenarios in your head. I mean, I have conversations with people that will never come to fruition, that I'm just having them in my head. And so instead, what I did is I was just like just asking spirit, like, just tell me what I need to know. And then just saying whatever came through or saying whatever I was getting without thinking about it. So I guess, yeah, that does make sense.
Let me tell you, with this one class I was giving, and the lady was from, and I kept trying to tell her, quit thinking about it, because she was so used to trying to interpret her language into our language. And, so she was really into her head. And then she said, I get it. It's like whenever I translate for people, it's called no brain. And I said, yeah, just go to no brain. And she's like, oh, now it works, But you really...
Well, so how does the information come through? Do you see it in like pictures? Is it just thoughts, or is it word audible? Like,
Well, sometimes it does a lot of different ways. We have a lot of different ways that we learn things. Okay, it's either visual, so yes, I'll see pictures, or it's auditory, I'll hear words, or I'll hear something. A lot of times it's feelings. Most of the time it's a knowing. They'll show me a picture and I'll get a knowing. Oh, this is what's going to happen. Kind of like with you. This is what's going to happen if you stay there. I just know it doesn't feel good, and you're not going to like it. You know, I can't read your future because of course you can change your future, but what it looks like is if I throw this ball, I kind of know where it's going to go. If you change it and don't throw the ball that way, then we know a different way it's going to go.
So you're reading just that moment because it's not predict because everything can change.
Right. Because you have the power to change it. All you have to do is change your mind, decide to get into makeup, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much you kick and scream, sometimes whenever it's your thing, you're going to do it anyhow.
You guys, I've reached out to her so many times. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. She's like, yes, you do.
Yeah.
She's like,
I would
I
say
see you.
you can go down your path two ways. You can walk gracefully, or you can go and leave your fingernails as they drag you down your path. It's your choice.
It's so funny. Okay, so there are a lot of skeptics that think this is against religion and are how do you I don't know, how do you respond to that when people are saying this doesn't come from God or this isn't, this is against the church?
Well, it's not against the church, and I understand people say that. And again, like the Bible, it's in the Bible. But if you look into all the religions, they have what I call the surface religion. That's like for regular people to go on Sunday and be a community. Okay, that's really surface. But if you look behind it, like the Catholic Church, they have exorcisms. They have, there's a group. I'm not Catholic, so I'm not sure I'm using the right term. Anyhow, it's another group, and that's all they do is work in that field of moving energy and helping communities and things by allowing that good energy to prevail. Okay. Trying to think of if I know anything else. Like Buddhists, they do it through their silence, and they really have it made for the no brain because they don't have anything in writing. And they did that on purpose so that you wouldn't get hung up on your words, the connotation for words. But they all do. I mean, look at the monks up in Tibet. What most of the time they are trying to stay in that theta and alpha frequency by doing the Om and whatever else. They're not thinking like, oh, I wonder what that guy's thinking about me. I mean, they're not there at all.
And there's that Christian religion. I don't know what it is. I have a Catholic background. And so for me, it always surprises me when Catholics are like poo-pooing this. I'm like, we literally pray to saints, pray to Mary. Like we do all kinds of stuff. Catholics are like the most woo-woo of everyone. But there's another one that talks
and you have
tongues.
guardian angels. I mean, come on,
Yes.
You have guardian angels and you go in and get forgiven all the time. I mean, everybody needs that. So yeah, and look at Christ did miracles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, and there is another Christian faith where they talk in tongues. I'm not sure if it's
True.
Pentecostal, I think Pentecostal.
Yeah.
That's it.
And somebody gets the word of God and they speak in tongues.
They like
and
download it.
Interprets it. Yeah. So it's like, hello, that spirit. Well, speaking of skeptics, if somebody is a skeptic and comes to you, or maybe they are even a non-believer, but they're just like almost even coming to you because they're like, well, I'm going to see what she has to say. Does it make it harder for you to do a reading for someone? Like, or is it easier if somebody's more open and lets you have access?
Yes. Because, well, first of all, they're questions. I can't get anything if they don't give me a question that for something they're looking for. But also their resistance is so strong. It's like walking through mud. It's like, I'm just really trying to get there, So what I'll do is I just start with, what is it you really want? Because if you just want me to be wrong or want to prove that your belief is right, that this doesn't really exist, then you can just walk out the door and that'd be fine with me. But if you really want an experience of it so that you can decide for yourself, then let's just allow me to remove that resistance. And once that's gone, it's like, they just start talking and I can't get them to be quiet, because once they really get that they're going to get what they want, then that's a
Yeah, I
whole.
find like if I just ask you a question but don't give you I mean, you definitely do sometimes have answers, but if I don't give you enough information or anything, then it's like you'll give me an answer and then I start giving you more and then you start like hitting it. It's like because I'm giving you more, then you're getting more of a download and then you're like,
Right. Well, and it is because once you, like, I don't ask for information. I just say, give me your question, because I don't want that information that you have, because it's really perception, whatever your perception is about whatever the situation is. So I'll give you that answer. But then if you say, oh, yeah, but then this happened, well, now you've opened up the door to something else, right? To another time, or now you're really looking for the root cause. And that's why I always try to get them to go to the root cause. Because if we kill the roots, we kill the tree. If we kill a feeling that they are so afraid of that they don't want to let go, then, and we go back and we remove it, it probably affects 8 areas of their life. And that's really surprising to them. But it also is, it doesn't come back. If you trim a tree, you get 2 more branches, right? You kill the root, you've killed the whole tree. And like I said, some of those areas of their life, it really hasn't affected them enough to kind of delve into to get rid of. But once that root's gone, then they notice, wow, not only did that work here, but it worked at work, and it worked with my kids, and my husband and I don't fight about that anymore. What's the deal? So
yeah, because it's like you let go of some resentment or a pain that you were carrying.
right.
So, what are the most common struggles that you hear from women in midlife?
Well, most of them want to know if they've done their purpose. Okay. A lot of them want to know that they can do life from here on out without guilt, with being like doing things for themselves and not think of themselves as selfish, because they have been serving all this time. And because of that, they're always thinking about other people. They don't even know what makes them happy anymore. They don't know what they want. So I give them this really simple thing. I say, okay, don't know what you want, but you know what you don't want, right? So just list the things that you don't want. And on the opposite side of the page, write the opposite. Okay. And remember, if you prayed it in, you can pray it out. So even if you get the thing that's the opposite of that and you don't want it, it's okay. You don't have to keep it. Right. So just that in itself, then I say, go back to your original list and ask yourself, are you really ready to give that up? Okay. Because once you choose to give that up, that's huge. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they go, you know what? That's why I get my husband to do XYZ. You get to do his to-do list or whatever it is. No, I'm not willing to give that up yet. So
yeah, we've had that conversation where you've asked me, you're like, you're holding on to this resentment real strong. And I said, I don't want to let it go. I'm not ready yet. I'm still mad.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well,
I want to hang on to that for a little bit longer, because it's like I'm using it as leverage.
It's only hurting me, but I'm like, I'm still mad. I want to hold on. I'm not ready yet. And you're like, that's what I feel like. You're not.
And that's okay. If that's what you feel like, that's all right. You can hold on to anything that you want. When it gets to the point that you hit that wall and you want something that's on the other side of the wall, you'll give it up.
Well, Elizabeth knows this, and I've shared this several times on the podcast, but 4 years ago when I started the podcast, that was exactly why I started it. I was about to become an empty nester. I had devoted the last 25 years to being a stay-at-home mom, was taking care of 3 kids, 3 boys. Like, I taught yoga and had, as a yoga therapist, worked, but it was very part-time because my main priority was raising my 3 children. And as my youngest was getting ready to go away to college, I was kind of like, oh my God, who am I? What do I like? what do I even want to do with the rest of my life? And my husband said something at the time, like, now you can retire. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is like my time. Like, I'm finally, I want to do the things that I've always wanted to do that I haven't been able to do because I've been available to raise my children, and I have no regrets at all. But that's really what spawned the podcast. Was I was like, surely there has to be other women like me, because most of my friends had full-time careers and had children. A lot of them didn't stay at home, or my good friends, they all had, careers. And so, but I was like, surely there's got to be some women out there who are like me, who are going like, I don't even know what I like to eat anymore because I cooked for the likes of 3 children. So I love that. That's kind of what you hear over and over again. It validates what I, experienced. But I do have a question for you about this work, and like, if you could speak to how has this work changed you personally? Because I know you said you started kind of seeking at 25, like, okay, there's got to be more to this. What kind of evolution have you had personally through this work?
Oh, well, along the way, I've had a lot of evolutions, but how I use it today, I think would help more than anything else. Okay. So if something happens, I'm out and somebody rams in my cart, or, you have the drivers that are not nice, or something like that, and I get triggered, then the first thing I do is I open the records whenever I'm not driving, and I say, okay, what just happened here? And what they do is they show me the facts and then allow me to see my perception of the facts. And that is the only way to break that cycle of, they did it to me. They have control of my feelings because they made me feel whatever, that's not true at all. The true is they hit a button, a feeling that happened in my childhood or past life, but mostly it's in your childhood, that someplace. And the worst thing we can do, that we don't like to do, is to feel a feeling that it's uncomfortable. Okay. So then I asked them, take me to that place, tell me anything I need to know about it. I really kind of cheat, and I say, if you can just remove this, go ahead and do it first. And if they say, no, you really need to know something, or you really need to see how easily it happened or how simple it was, then they'll take me back and show me whatever that was. And then from there, they'll tell me who I need to forgive, or if I need to forgive myself, or if I need to talk to that 3-year-old or 2-year-old, whatever it is, and what I need to say to them. And then it's gone. And then again, that's where always my last thing is, I always say, and fill up any holes that I've created, even though they're not really holes, fill up any holes with unconditional love, or knowing security, the feeling of harmony, or whatever it is that would be the opposite of what I was feeling.
So it's basically kind of taking you from that victimhood of everyone's out to get me, and just allow you to see things. I mean, I always say that we all come to things from past experiences, so it colors our current experience and our perception. So like, you can have 2 people who have the same exact experience, quote unquote, but the way they perceive it can be 2 totally different ways. Exactly. So in other words, you're just seeing it for what it is. It's helping you. The work has changed you by being able to just see the way it really is without your own color added to it.
Exactly. And it really does make a difference, because once I know it's me and not them, right, that I can fix. I can't fix them. They might run into 10 more people during the day, that's their problem. But You're right. If my immediate thought is, well, it's because I'm not good enough, or I'm not, they just don't like me because I'm a woman, or, any other excuse you want to come up with, then I call it whine, bitch, moan, blame others. If I catch myself doing that, then it's like, okay, get off of it, go back, find out what are the facts, look at the real perception, located in your body, because our bodies hold those feelings. You know, it's kind of like you ever hear that. It's like getting gut punched, or my stomach, I can't be around that person because my stomach tweaks, so your body actually holds those feelings. And then you can go in and send that, instead of trying to ignore the feeling or push it away, go in and send it some love. Whatever your visualization is for love, if it's a heart or a teddy bear or whatever, and you say, listen, I hear you. And I want to thank you for showing me that you're there or still there. And I just want to let you know your job's done. You don't have to do this again. And here's a heart. Now you can go ahead and go wherever you want. I always say, go ride the unicorns, and that's all right. Anything you want to do. And immediately you'll feel the release because you're not denying it to start with.
Yeah, so what Boni's talking about now for listeners, this is inner child work. And for a lot of times when people have deep-seated pain from childhood or trauma, in order to fully heal it, you do have to do some inner child work and love your inner child. You have to step in, and I've done inner child work with Boni, and it's like where I have to go in. My father took his own life when I was 3, and I went in with her and like held my 3-year-old self and gave myself the love and support I needed that I didn't receive at the time, with Boni's guidance. It was wonderful. Well, Boni, is there anything that you think that we didn't ask you that you think we should know today? By the way, this is how I end every call with her whenever I do. So I have appointments with her on the phone, but it is my last question always. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I would benefit me to know today?
Well, the only thing that I would like everybody to know, and you probably already know it by now, is this is how the system works. Okay? When we're 2 or under, we're in what's called a theta frequency. Now, you don't have to know that. What you have to know is it's a survival frequency. You have to scream loud, you have to kick and scream, you have to do whatever you can to get fed and your needs taken care of, okay? From 3 to 5, it's called an alpha frequency. Again, you don't have to know that. You just have to know it's an if-then frequency. If I do this, then I'll be loved. If I do this, I will be shunned. If I do this, everybody will hate me. If I do this, if I do something else, right, bring the little flower to mom, then she'll love me and she'll smile at me and I'll get the cookie, right? Okay. And then whenever you're 6 and 7, it changes and you're in beta frequency and you're there the rest of your life. But if you want to change any of those programs, from your siblings beating you up or the bully at the kindergarten thing or whatever it is, you have to get back into that frequency in order to change it. You can't change it by thinking it through. You have to get back into that frequency. And that's why they said it, and like your yoga, that's why you do yoga. So you can be in that meditative state, which is alpha, so that you can change it. So you're changing those programs so that, your beta will be good. This is the one thing that I really, really like. Okay, when you're 7, your system says, this is the way life should be. This is perfect. So everything you do in your life, your system is trying to get you back to that 7-year-old. So you look at the people in your life and they will represent the people that you had when you were 7. And it's usually about 8 people, your grandmother, maybe your aunt, your parents, whatever, your siblings. Okay. And you'll look, and the people that you associate with or feel comfortable with are going to be those people. I had one lady, and she was so funny. She's like, okay, I can throw those dishes away. We had those growing up, and I hate them. I hated them then, and I hate them now, and I just have not been able to throw them away, because it's like, oh, that kind of reminds you of home kind of thing. She's like, God, I've always wanted these other dishes. I can go home and get rid of those and use my other dishes. But it's so interesting to see how many things in your life are still here, still in your life, that were there when you were 7. So it's a system. There's nothing wrong with you. Why? Because a lot of people say that, well, why can't I just get over this? It's not about that. Your system is set up to make this be the way you were when you were 7. So it's always going to come back that way unless you do the work, get rid of the roots. Then you can grow whatever tree you want.
Yeah, I think oftentimes because children, all we do want is love and acceptance. And so even if we're like, that's why people continue bad relationships with family members, because it's like, it's the familiar. And so like, and then they'll repeat those relationships throughout their whole life because it feels the same way as, like you said, at 7. And so, until you can, like, I guess, break that adherence to that pattern, you can't ever move forward. I love that. I'd never heard of it broken down in those stages. So that makes total sense to me.
I like this. I was a computer programmer. So you have your hard drive. That's your theta. That's your 2 and under. Okay. Then you have your operating system. Your operating system is the if then. If you do this, then you get this result. If you do this, you get this result. You see, it's the same thing. That computer was actually designed after our brains, after our emotional system. So it makes sense. I mean, it's easy to see once you're not tied into beliefs, old patterns, and you're willing to look at it. And I say, laugh at yourself, when you look at yourself doing these things that you know you don't want to do, just laugh. Because laughter actually does break up those blocks.
Well, how can our listeners find you if they would like to learn more or schedule a call with you?
Okay. So the easiest way to get hold of me is to text me. Okay, and that's 210-849-9513. You can email me. I'm not really great at email, maybe once or twice a week, as you have found out. I get on. It's Boni, but it's Boni, is Boni, because it's short for Benita. Boni at claimyourlifewithboni.com. Again, Boni. And you can go to my website, which is www.claimyourlifewithboni.com, and read more information, get more information. I have a zillion questions on there that people ask about, their purpose and, what makes them unique or whatever it is. And you can go through those. I don't like people to use those, but I do like them to see how to ask questions, because I like that they get rid of why and they come from I. How can I do this better? How can I better communicate? How can I help this relationship? That kind of thing. So I'd like to give them examples, but I only really like that they give me what's really bothering them, so that we can just get to it and get it taken care of.
Yeah, that's a great point that you brought up. I have come to her for guidance so often whenever I was struggling with my adult children, or when they were teenagers, or my husband or my mom. And I'm like, can you help me bridge a gap here? Like, I don't know how to talk to them, or I'm trying to get through to them. And, a lot of times it's like, hey, maybe this is not your job to be saying this. Like, sometimes I need that reality check.
Okay, how can I fix them? Wait a minute. I didn't think that's, I don't think that's your job either.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's like, hey, just be there for support. And she does help me build relationships with the people that I care most about. But we will Erin's going to put all her information in the show notes, and her website really is a treasure trove of information. You can go in and learn all about her. It's great. claimyourlifewithboni.com. But anything else? So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, Boni.
Thank you. I mean, it's been a pleasure. And it was so nice to meet you, Erin, because I have heard a lot about you. And I'm sure everything she said is true about how wonderful you are. So I really get that from you. You really have a good heart.
Thank you so much.
Of course, I love Elizabeth and her whole family.
She is awesome. This has been such a joy to have her joining me on the podcast. We're just having fun with it. And just a reminder to our listeners, make sure that you hit the follow button so that you are notified every time we release a new episode each week.
And you can watch the full version on YouTube. Go and follow us on TikTok and Instagram, and we will see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Boni. Bye.
Bye.
This has been a production of Estrogen Dropouts, LLC.